everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you to Reimagine Future Hackathon. Great leaps in technology proliferation, combined with mass wave of digitization following the COVID-19 pandemic, have made a huge impact on our lives and across the world. There has been significant awareness about going digital. Digital transformation is happening at a rapid pace and it's evolving, changing the way we work, redefining business models, industry trends, and consumer behaviors. The onset of the pandemic has accelerated this transformation, bringing changes at an unprecedented scale and velocity, and in the process, providing us a glimpse into the future of business, society, and the world. You developers will be at the heart of this technology transformation, the core enablers of this tectonic change. Our keynote speaker for the day is Sandeep Patel, Managing Director of IBM India and South Asia. Sandeep is responsible for all of IBM's sales, marketing, services, and delivery operations in the region. In addition, Sandeep also plays a key role in enabling capabilities across IBM's global missions in India, including research and innovation labs. He's driving a mandate to make IBM the #1 cloud and cognitive solutions company in India, South Asia. Let's welcome Sandeep Patel to announce the launch of Reimagine Future Hackathon and talk about how technology will be playing a crucial role in the post-pandemic world. Over to you, Sandeep.
Hello, dear developers, thinkers, and problem solvers. I'm delighted to welcome you all to Reimagine Future Hackathon. This is a platform for you to come together as a community, form teams, ideate, and build solutions for the future. With the onset of the pandemic, we have all witnessed that people and businesses have become more trusting of what technology can do. And they are pushing ahead in adopting these technologies. They now see the value in technologies such as artificial intelligence, IoT, blockchain, and cloud. What we also learned from the pandemic is that how we operate today will not be the same in the future. The pandemic may have just been a trigger, but these changes are here to stay. So the question that we all need to think about, just not now, but also beyond the pandemic, how will we reimagine the future? This is where your bright ideas can add immeasurable value to the technology solutions of the future. You have the power to put design and technologies into practice that can accelerate true adoption and benefit the future of business, society, and the world. IBM has always been on the forefront of research and innovation. Together with providing access to these technologies, at our core, we believe that open source is the bedrock of modern computing, powering the most progressive tech of our time, from blockchain to quantum to AI and cloud. We also recently allowed over-the-cloud access to our quantum systems for top-tier institutions in India to accelerate advanced training and research in quantum computing. With this initiative, we are enabling India's brightest minds to learn the skills to prepare for the disruptive future. We are further advancing the research in artificial intelligence and hybrid cloud in this already very tech-savvy nation through the hybrid cloud lab that will be housed on the IISc campus in Bangalore. Whether you're a solo developer, whether you work for a startup or a large enterprise, contributing to an open source community will help you achieve your professional learning goals. We are excited to see more organizations and developers embracing open source software and operating principles. Finally, I would urge you all to gain relevant skills, learn, innovate, share with the community, and keep thinking about new ideas and solutions. I wish you all the very best for your participation in this hackathon. And I'm looking forward to seeing some great innovation coming out from this initiative. I wish you all the very best. Stay masked, stay safe.
Thank you so much, Sandeep, for your encouraging words and enlightening us with the relevance and importance of technology in the post pandemic world. Let's move on to another special topic of Reimagine Future of Innovation. Let me now invite Gaurav Sharma. He is the Vice President of Cloud and Cognitive Software and India Software Labs at IBM. He drives a broader global mission of leading IBM Cloud Packs across Asia Pacific and is the strategy and sales leader for GSI's Global System Integrators business of IBM. He leads the leading innovation center, IBM India Software Labs, to be market focused and helps IBM to be at the forefront of technology innovations that are important to our clients. Let's welcome Gaurav Sharma for a deep dive on Reimagine Future of Innovation. Over to you, Gaurav.
Hi, a very good morning, afternoon, evening, depending on the time that you see this. My name is Gaurav Sharma and I lead IBM India Software Labs at IBM. I hope all of you are doing well and keeping safe. I'm delighted to welcome you all to Reimagine Future Hackathon, a platform where you can learn from teams, ideate, build solutions for the future. As all of you know, IBM Software Labs in India is one of the leading innovation and engineering centers that designs, develops, and delivers next generation software portfolio and cloud offerings for IBM globally. With the rapid digital transformation, emergence of new business models, and the rise of network economy, businesses are at an inflection point. Our vision is to shape the future of software development and engineering through an open, secure, decentralized architecture that helps clients automate, secure, modernize, and predict. We at IBM strongly believe that diversity fuels innovation, and the lab is at the forefront of embracing the diverse talent which is available in India. As a microcosm of the developer ecosystem, we would like to work together on an end-to-end mission to build solutions of the future in technologies such as data fabric, cloud computing, business automation, artificial intelligence, digital platforms, marketplaces, security, and more, while adopting a design-first approach to co-create. Built on the values of trust, personal responsibility, and ethical use of technology, your environment will be fast-paced, agile, collaborative, and will encompass leveraging newer technologies, platforms, frameworks, etc. Today, when we talk about software development, cloud features as the dominant force, which is the driving change in the industry. Innovative organizations are melding cloud with disruptive technologies like blockchain, AI, analytics, ML. Cloud application development enables building once, iterate rapidly, and deploy anywhere. It delivers faster time to market, higher scalability, simpler management, and reduced costs through containerization, microservices, automation, and DevOps practices. Let me share an India example. SBI YONO, which is SBI's highly scalable mobile app, leverages IBM Mobile Foundation as one of the platforms. This allows customers to do all their banking transactions from a single app. Consider this: today, the SBI YONO app is valued at $40 to $50 billion in just 3 years of its launch. Imagine the value a technological innovation has created for a leading bank. This is the true power of software and code. A great example of the contributions by our India Software Labs is the development of the recently launched IBM Cloud Satellite. The team was responsible for delivering IBM Cloud Satellite features that enable automated deployment of solutions on IBM and other cloud service providers. Using well-known automation technologies like Terraform, developers can now quickly deploy satellite services faster. We at IBM believe in innovating in the open. A trend we are seeing now is that organizations themselves are becoming open source in the way that they operate as a development organization. As organizations change the way they develop code, infusing open source principles and practices into the development processes, the technology that's created is better, innovative, and more secure. Part of this openness is the way that teams across different communities come together to create better, more closely aligned, and scalable solutions. We are extremely excited to be part of the Reimagine Future Hackathon. I wish you all the very best with your participation, and I hope I will see some great ideas and solutions that comes out of this initiative. A big thank you once again. Stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gaurav, for sharing the insights on the technology trends, the practice of innovation in the open, infusing open source to build better, secure, and more innovative solutions. No industry is immune to digital disruption. Did you imagine visiting your doctor sitting at home or using AI powered health apps to check your vital health parameters using your phone or smart wearables? Let's reimagine. This pandemic brought some huge changes to our lives. I would now like to welcome Viren Shetty, Chief Operating Officer at Narayana Health, on his thoughts on technology disruption in healthcare.
Welcome to the Reimagine Future Hackathon from IBM. My name is Viren Shetty. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Narayana Health, a healthcare group based in Bangalore. By now, you don't need another person from the healthcare industry telling you more about the pandemic. Most of you have lived through a really difficult time. My hearts go out to you and your families, and I hope you are all well. And I also wish for each and every one of you to get yourself vaccinated as soon as possible with both doses of vaccine. Any vaccine is fine. They've all been vetted by experts. And please don't believe any of the news you see out there about any side effects, or there are obviously side effects to all vaccines. And this is the only thing that will protect you. In all the months of seeing patients in our hospitals, we have not yet seen a single person with both doses of the vaccine end up in the ICU. The vaccine saved lives. Now, on to the lessons that institutions like ours have learned during this pandemic. The most important lesson that all of us have taken away from COVID is how much it has upended every assumption we had about how the world worked. Before COVID, we used to imagine that every day looked pretty much like the day before, and things would proceed in a gradual and incremental way. And we understood that technology was an important enabler, but we never took it up with any level of seriousness or the urgency that was necessitated by the pandemic. But then you have this event that shuts down global travel, that shuts down people's mobility, that floods hospitals with a huge number of very, very sick patients. And you have a situation where our doctors are faced with hordes of angry patients and upset relatives. And we're dealing with very volatile decision-making at the government. And so this becomes a very challenging environment for hospitals to work under. Now, we're all through it, and we're keeping our fingers crossed and hoping that we don't pass through a third wave. But it's important for us to remember that there are lessons to be learned from here. I've told our team members, imagine this pandemic as a permanent state. No, it doesn't mean that we're always going to be faced with COVID-19. It's very likely the disease will get milder and milder and we can all go back to normal. But these learned behaviors for the past couple of months are going to be with us for a long, long time. This is a genie that can never be put back into the bottle. The chief learning for the healthcare institutions, such as ourselves, is that hospitals that do surgeries operate at the absolute tip of a massive funnel where patients sometimes feel sick. They may get advice from an online resource or call someone they know, who again gets referred to a clinic, who will refer them for some tests, who will then refer them to see a junior doctor, who will refer them to see a senior doctor, and then maybe a few of them will end up in a hospital such as ours. All of that has been disrupted. It's been disrupted because with digital tools now, you're able to connect with the patient at their first point of call. And so that means that patients will now be able to connect with the top doctors in their field for any of their minor ailments. So that cuts away all these layers of hierarchy that exist. But our hospitals are not configured that way. We are designed to assume that patients already know what they need when they end up in the hospital. We expect them to have files. We expect them to have medical records. We expect them to accurately describe their symptoms to the doctors who come in. But when a person's calling you online for the first time, they have no idea what's wrong with them. They don't even know how to accurately describe their symptoms. And so healthcare institutions have to start reimagining the way we even conduct an online session when you're talking with the patient for the first time. There is a huge amount of resistance for behaviors to change. Doctors prefer to talk to patients face to face. All of you have faced this instance where maybe the people you work for are expecting you to get back to work, come back to the office, meet in teams, have these face-to-face conversations, because nothing can match against that creativity and energy that comes from being among people. And doctors expect the same as well, and patients expect the same as well. But there are tremendous number of advantages that are available to people who can see you online. So for example, you don't need to fight with traffic. You don't need to hunt for parking. You don't need to get yourself registered at the front office. You don't need to wait for the doctor. All you need to do is make an appointment online. Maybe the doctor is late by 5 or 10 minutes, but that's it. You can see him from the comfort of your home. And that is a huge value unlock for hospitals. And this is a behavior that will continue well beyond the pandemic. And so it is incumbent upon everyone out there who's either building a new way of accessing healthcare digitally, or for hospitals who are thinking about what their business looks like in the future, is very important for them to consider that customer convenience trumps all else. Whether it is a less high fidelity medium when you're talking to someone online is irrelevant. The fact is it's more convenient, and we have to find ways to work around the fact that you're not getting as much information as you would if you were to see the patient face to face. So hospitals such as ours have realized that we really offer a terrible technology experience for patients. Our websites are out of date. You can call a doctor through the call center. That's a terrible experience. We didn't used to have apps. And so we sought to correct that by hiring a huge number of people and setting up a separate arm just for building technology for us. Now, we did this all before the pandemic, and we had a sense that things will proceed as they are. We had no idea that our lives would be upended. And all of a sudden, when our doctors could not come for work, when patients couldn't show up for the hospital, we realized that we can pivot, and we can pivot very quickly. And so our team, in the span of 2 weeks, were able to build a very basic app that allowed doctors to see patients. And that was extremely valuable because in March, April of last year, when everyone was stuck at home, we were extremely worried about the patients who were no longer able to access us. And with the tools we were able to quickly build, we were then able to at least keep the show going to a limited extent. And this is the power of technology. Without this, there was no way we would have been able to generate any revenue for ourselves in those months when everyone was stuck at home. But we wanted to take it beyond that. Seeing a doctor online is just one part of it. We wanted to expand the capabilities of our doctors by building tools that make them more useful. Now, here's an interesting fact. The average doctor will check a desktop computer 6 to 7 times a day. That's it. They will check their cell phone 200 times a day. Now, if you are a patient and you want to get in touch with that doctor, or if you have some vital health information you want to convey to him, would you convey it to that doctor on a desktop computer, or would you convey it on the mobile phone? Now, granted, you cannot put all the information you want on a mobile phone. You're limited by screen size. But there are very intelligent things you can do with UI that will make it a lot convenient for the doctor to be able to access that. And so we realized that in a time when doctors are always on the move and it's very hard to reach them, and we want to give them patient updates, we have to find a way to get them all on the same page. So we built an application called Adi, which is built on top of our homegrown EMR system called Atma. And what Adi is essentially a very fancy version of Slack, built for the medical community. It allows doctors to pull information from the labs. They can pull the test reports of the patients. They can access the old records. Doctors can form care teams and communicate with each other and coordinate the care for the patients. They can pull up images from many months ago. And this coordinated effort is something that allows the doctor to see the patients even when they're not in the hospital. Now, we designed Adi as an app for doctors to see patients when they were at home. And it was only when COVID struck did the doctor suddenly realize that, wow, this is an amazing tool for treating patients in the intensive care. Because what happens is when COVID patients are in the ICU, you don't want to keep too much staff in front of them. You want to limit their exposure. And so there are these huge glass viewing panels, and all our doctors were behind the glass. And so that meant information that stays at the patient bedside had to be first converted into a format that the machines can read, and then formatted in such a way so the doctors can read it easily on their cell phone. And once the doctors were on the other side of the glass and not in front of the patient, it opened up a whole new way of treating patients. Now, it didn't just mean that one doctor could see his patient outside the glass. It meant he could see it at home. It meant a doctor could see patients from different cities. It meant many doctors could coordinate care among the most sick patients of ours. And so something that seemed like a very relatively minor tweak, which is taking the monitor and patient data and putting it on your cell phone. And we thought it was a minor thing. It led to a completely new behavior among the doctor community of how patients need to be treated. And this is never going back. In the future, we expect all our patients will be treated with a remote team of doctors as well as with a physical team. And that is how technology has enabled a completely new way of treating patients that is safer, that leads to better outcomes. It leads to much better quality outcomes for the patients. One more thing I want to talk about is on the power of data. You hear a lot of people say data is the new oil. And you think, yes, data is valuable. Oil is valuable, data is valuable. True. But oil is not something that if I gave you a barrel of oil today, you won't know what to do with it because you have no capacity to refine it. You don't have any kind of ability to turn it into something useful. Data is only useful when you have the ability to clean it, process it, and extract the relevant insights. And so we again created a large team of developers who are data science engineers. And for them, their first biggest task in our institution was to clean up the data. You won't believe this, but we have 30 different ways of calling open heart surgery. Some people call it heart surgery, some people call it CABG, some people call it bypass, some people call it bypass grafting. There are just many different ways. And the machines are dumb. They're not going to know the difference between one or the other. They don't know that they're all the same thing. And so we had a huge amount of effort spent on cleaning the data, and then another huge amount of effort in creating a layer that is able to extract the data and make it useful. And only then did we get into applications that extract useful insight, which is business intelligence dashboards, AI applications, and that led to better clinical outcomes as well as business outcomes. So there is a lot that one can do with AI, but you can't go with a solution-first mindset. It took us 2 years to clean up the data. And that is a point you guys will also have to remember when you're working with health institutions, which is that the data comes in a very jumbled format, and you're going to have to clean it up first and then extract relevant insights. So I'd like to end by saying that in the future, like every company will be in the technology business. It doesn't matter if you're a farmer, it doesn't matter if you're a doctor, it doesn't matter if you're making furniture. Every company will be in the technology business. And that will lead to a huge amount of challenges for those that cannot adapt and a huge amount of opportunity for those that can. The roles that you find yourselves in, some of you are maybe in pure play technology companies, some of you may be in old, stodgy industrial companies. It doesn't matter. The point is, COVID has taught us that the way we do business has to be reimagined. The way in which we interact with our customers, the way in which we process data, the way in which we use insights has to be reimagined. And that can only happen through digital technology. And that is the important role that engineers like you all will play. And so you have a great future ahead of you. You are going to build wonderful solutions during this hackathon. And I look forward to interacting with you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Viren, for the amazing insights. The importance of data pre-processing and generating useful information. The Adi app and Atma for a coordinated healthcare to all of us. Technology at its best, and a big salute to the entire healthcare workforce. The way we do business has to be reimagined. The way we work with clients has to be reimagined. Education is the bedrock of any strong society. It was one of the most impacted sector during the pandemic. While no remote education learning technology can completely replace the classroom learning experience, it's surely a time to reimagine the future of education. On this note, let's welcome Arjun Mohan, CEO of Upgrad, as he engages in a fireside chat with Dipali Nair, Director of Marketing, IBM India and South Asia. Arjun Mohan is the CEO for India at Upgrad, South Asia's largest online higher ed tech. Arjun started his career with the Think and Learn Private Limited, commonly known as Byju's, as a teacher and moved up the ranks into a leadership role. As CEO of Upgrad, he's running a tech platform which has seen a tremendous growth in last few years. Dipali Nair is responsible for driving all marketing and brand initiatives, customer relationship management, and execution for IBM India and South Asia. An award-winning marketer, her entrepreneurship skills are legendary as she has navigated cultures both at startups, established multinational corporations, and Indian companies. She also hosts a podcast, Being CEO with Dipali Nair. Over to you, Dipali.
Thanks, Binu. Arjun Mohan is the CEO India at Upgrad, South Asia's largest online higher edtech. But let me remind you that Arjun started his career with the Think and Learn Private Limited, commonly known as Byju's. And he started by teaching himself. He was a teacher. And then he's moved up the ranks into a leadership role. He ran most of the sales and marketing at Byju's early years and was until recently running its international business. He's held several leadership positions there throughout his tenure, including Vice President Marketing and most recently, the Chief Business Officer. Hello, Arjun. Thank you for taking time out today.
Thanks, Dipali. Thank you so much. It's indeed a great pleasure to be here talking to IBM folks. The way I see it, the front runners are the people who are defining how India's software industry works. So really excited to have this conversation.
Thank you very much. Like you said, we are here to talk about reimagining the future of education. As you know, the Reimagine Hackathon is where we are asking developers from around the country to rally together and build innovative solutions, for the future. So let me just ask the first question to you, Arjun. How has been the edtech industry's experience of the pandemic? I know, we all know that they've grown considerably, but I specifically want to know from you for the online higher education platform like Upgrad, how has it been?
Sure. Before I try to answer this question, I just want to specifically call out on the hackathon you guys are doing. I think we are sitting in a very interesting time in our life. There has never been a time in India where there was so much of demand for IT and software engineers or computer science engineers. I think there's a huge opportunity sitting in front of us if we can train and if we can bring out those folks in tier 2 cities who don't have opportunities. So I'm really hoping that with a program like this hackathon, you will be able to create many more software experts who will propel our economy forward. So I just wanted to say that before answering the question.
No, sure. Thank you. Thank you so much, because I'm sure the audience would be so glad to hear that.
Yeah, right. I'm in the midst of it because we have a large scale placement system. Also, one of the questions which keeps getting asked these days is, can you give us more software engineers? Do you know people with more of Python expertise, Java expertise? I think this is great. This is fantastic to bring in those talent out. Now, to come back to the question I was put toward on the pandemic and edtech. It's a common knowledge today that thanks to the pandemic and edtech had been having its time under the sun. The growths are huge. Just want to take a step back. So what had happened in the beginning of the pandemic is that suddenly the TG we work with, right, be it students or be it a young working professional, higher education, they all suddenly had a lot of time and at the same time, lot of unclarity on what their future will be. So we saw huge number of huge number of people coming online trying to see what this online education is because they were out of choices. And interestingly, a lot of them found very good experience, and hence the numbers start sustaining. In the beginning, we could see around 5x, 6x increase in traffic, but over a period of time, it subsided on a paid customer level to around 1.5 to 2x times. Uh, at Upgrad specifically, we have seen our user base go up to more than 1 million learners who are trying to upskill them in the most modern courses like data science, communication skills, machine learning, so on and so forth. So one interesting aspect we saw I observed in the beginning is that when the whole edtech opening up happened in a big way, there were a lot of companies. It mushroomed out. There were so many companies who were trying to get that traffic out. But over a period of time, we found that the conversion from a free user to a paid users, which is finally what the sustainable users are, was only possible for certain companies. And one consistent pattern we saw there was companies with a strong sales and marketing background who had the ability to convince these customers through their credibility, through a brand, through their sales cycle, so on and so forth, plus a strong product. So product played a very, very important role. The free usage finally allowed these people to check out the product, to sample the product. What they found interested them, and anyone and everyone who had a strong product were able to convert the customer. So that's what we have observed. I feel that it was nothing short of a revolution, although it was very, very hard at times because all these customers who were sitting and trying to see were also not sure what will happen to their future. They did not know even they will have a job. They did not know what should they do with the savings. So it took a lot of convincing, but I think to a large extent, EdTech was able to make its presence felt in the large education sector of India.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that insight that a good product and a good sales and marketing team who knows, how to do the conversions really matter. I want to take you away from, what you do at Upgrad, and I want your opinion as an expert on one more area. Primary and secondary schools and some of the universities found the adoption of online and virtual classrooms challenging at the beginning of the pandemic.
Yes,
But now people have gotten used to it, and maybe things are improving. But what is your outlook, for the future of the delivery of education services?
sure. So I'll answer this question by giving a little bit of past, right? And because I was working in K-12. In K-12 also, I started with test prep, then went to K-10, then did K-12, did some early learn. So I've done the full gamut before coming to higher ed. One part I have observed always is that studying or learning is finally 50% learning and 50% teaching. If the student is not self motivated, your outcomes are always challenging. In online, it changes a bit more. It is 70% learning and 30% teaching because you don't have the kid sitting in front of you most of the times. You have to have the students who are really, really self motivated, or you need to have the tools which will bring in that self motivation or that interest or excitement within the students. So, this has been, in my view, one of the biggest challenges of edtech. How do you derive those outcomes which a student is looking for? Now, in case of higher ed, because we do most of formal education, we can do it because we are the people teaching and we are the people measuring whether you have learned, and the outcomes are to a large extent defined by us because certification, everything happens to us. In K-12, this becomes a very complex thing. It becomes a complex thing because you are doing the teaching, you are giving the right products, but someone else, the school system, is actually doing the assessment for you. So even if you do a good work, if the student doesn't get marks or improvement in grades at school, the outcome is not there. And this has been a very complex problem, which we have not been able to solve to a large extent, even after many, many years of work. So this is one reason why I feel that although EdTech in K-12 has opened up, the adoption has been great because there was no choice. Everyone had to go online. But I feel that moment schools open, things are going to go back to where it was, because especially for school students, education is lot about discipline, and they will not learn until unless a teacher stands in front of them. For the self-motivated Lord, they will anyway learn. You don't need to give them anything. They will learn from those free videos. So hence, my view is that it will go back. And that's the reason why I am a big fan of the hybrid concept, which Byju's is championing today. I think the Akash acquisition will propel them to become the only player in the country which has a hybrid setup. See, fundamentally, what I understood after many years in edtech is that there's certain parts of education which can be done very well online. Within that, there are very good sections which can be done through videos, and there are sections where live classes are required. But there are also sections where a real interactions in classroom is essential. So in my view, this model is what will sustain. But it's very, very hard and very expensive to build this model, because the whole idea of edtech was you go to every small town and village. So will you be able to set up a center in all these places is the question. So that's what I will bet on. At the same time, I see that in higher education, these things are not really required, because the biggest advantage we have is the student who is coming to us is already desperate. He doesn't have a choice. He has seen that his development is stunted, and hence he or she is coming to us paying their hard-earned money. So there's a lot of motivation sitting there. Hence, for us, it becomes easier to push those outcomes. So hence, that's the direction I am seeing in education in India, at least. But definitely, it's not going to be completely online or completely offline. Everyone knows that there is a positive on both sides of it.
Thanks, Arjun. So you are saying that the blended learning model is here to stay. We are yet to see how exactly that will work. Classroom and virtual learning will coexist, maybe at different levels, for higher education versus, the lower classes. One of the things that you mentioned is rural, by the way,
Yeah.
So that's where I want you to also tell us how far, wide, and deep can virtual learning go for the rural areas in the country, because that's really important. And can it really be a solution at early stages of learning also for rural India? I mean, I know you said that school education really needs to be about in class participation, but I feel that if India has to get educated, then we've got to crack the rural code, and we've got to crack it at the primary levels. Sorry, so I'm kind of wanting you to talk about that.
No, I'm totally with you, Deepali. See, I mean, so the early idea of Byju's, right? Although the whole concept of video learning was something which we championed from our CAT days when we were taking classes for CAT examinations, the biggest eye opener was a few workshops or a few months of our work with some NGOs in UP. So these NGOs were working with kids who had dropped out of school many years ago. Now they are old enough to get to 6th standard, 5th standard, but they have stopped studying when they were in 1st standard. So these NGOs were working with these kids to bring them back to formal education and bring them back to those classrooms which fits their age, right? It was those kids which really showed me that a visual approach in teaching can really work. Only thing required is you need to teach them in their language. So basis this and basis what I have seen in education in India in last few years, my assessment is that the problem with Indian education system is not the quality, it is the infrastructure. There are only so many good schools, there are only so many good teachers, or in other words, there are only so many passionate teachers who truly wants to see that change happening in the kid. So that problem is what really creates an issue today. The way I see technology is that with the technology, the scale that these schools and these teachers can reach to, the number of students they can train really goes up. What are they constrained today on? They have a classroom which has got only 20 seats. They have a bandwidth which they can take care only 20 students. But moment you bring in technology into it, moment you bring in those 3D models into it, moment you bring in the live classes of their classes getting streamed to other places, you give access to these best quality teachers to huge number of students, and that's what is the game changer. Now, Baiju Ravindran was an excellent teacher.
Yeah.
The reason why he was successful was not because he was a very good teacher. There were hundreds of good teachers, but he was a teacher who understood this many, many years ago, and he always focused on the scale. His classrooms used to be at least 1,000 people. He used to do it in stadiums. And then he said that, okay, anyway, nobody asked me questions in the stadium. Let me record my classes and send it out.
Sure.
So I think that is precisely where the technology can change. So I'm personally a person who changed, or whose interest on education changed because I had some really good teachers.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes all the difference. And where I see technology is, how do we get this teacher to make, how do we make these teachers accessible to large part of the country? That's what will, and as you rightly said, right? So early learning. So see, early learning, I am a big believer on of tangible learning, right? Where you do touch and feel, the Montessori method, so on and so forth, right? Right now, to do a Montessori method, I don't need the kids to be there, right, in classroom. All I need is, I need to send those tangibles to the kids, and I need to have a monitoring system where the teachers see whether the kids are doing it, right? So suddenly, I'm able to scale the extent to which all these great ideas, all these passionate teachers are able to get to, which is where I think technology plays a very, very important role. And that's what pandemic taught us, right? The best of the teachers can now teach as many kids as possible.
Absolutely. And across the world, across geographies,
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, yes.
So
So
Arjun,
yeah,
very
yeah,
nicely
sorry.
defined. Sorry, I don't know. You want to finish? Yeah.
No. So you said across the world, right? And a very interesting proposition we are seeing now is the higher ed companies like us, or some of our competitors, right? A large part of our business comes from the Western countries today.
Yeah.
Same content, same concept, much lesser prices. They are more than happy to take it, right?
Absolutely.
And we are able to do the same thing at a much lesser price there, and people are happy. That's where my belief of that the problem is not educators or quality. The problem is infrastructure.
Yes.
Education infrastructure is the problem we need to solve for, and I think the solution for that lies online. So that's only becoming more and more stronger as time goes on.
Yeah. I'm going to get you to focus even more over here. So two problems you identified which can be solved through technology. One is achieving scale, and second is the monitoring back, because that's when, the problem will get solved. I want you to also tell us what other problems can technology solve, because I think that's exactly what the audience to this program, want to listen to. So talk about the Indian challenges, not, and of course, talk about higher ed too, which
Yeah.
is what problems can technology solve.
Sure. So yeah, so we covered a few of things, but another very important aspect which technology is helping us solve today is personalization and customization. See, education in India or education world over, the university systems or school system have always built on the assumption of one size fits all models, and that's the biggest wrong assumption you can have. Even in a class of 15 students, there will be four kind of learners. There will be visual learners, there will be kinesthetic learners, there will be learners who need practice, so on and so forth. So where technology is really making a difference today is by customizing this learning paths, the learning journey which a student takes today. If you can customize that based on the student's intent or style of learning, it makes a huge difference. So for instance, our platform, if you see, right, what we do is, when any student comes to us to enroll for a course, we first of all try to take what his outcome is. What is the desired outcome he or she wants to get to? Is it an acceleration in the career? That means he's working in a particular domain, he wants to get promoted in the same company. Is it a transition? He's in a particular domain, he wants to move into another domain. I am doing QC, I want to move to data science. Or is it professional confidence? I don't think I know enough. How can I know better and hence get more projects? Things like this. So we take this outcome and then we customize the learn journey. At every point, we tell them that you started here, now you are at this point. Now, these kind of things makes the students' learning experience totally worth it. And there is no other way other than usage of technology to get there. So this is one place where we do a lot of work. The other place where I'm seeing a lot of work which is happening today is, how do we replicate the offline features which actually help a student get better in the online space. So earlier the problem was, how do I do question papers or answering online because anyone can copy? Now we have proctored examinations. It goes to a level that if a student even changes the screen, the system is able to find out and give a warning. You can't plagiarize because there are such great tools available. Now we are trying to see in an MBA program, whatever benefits you get, be it networking, be it those group assignments, or be it those personality development. We're trying to see how all of this can be replicated online. One of the things I just explained. So we are taking this breakout rooms feature in Zoom to create a complete networking session today. So it starts with an expert coming in and giving in a general understanding of the industry, and then having specialized mentors break out into multiple rooms. So I think technology is at the forefront of education today. It is enabling real fantastic features to be taken online so that more and more people can get the benefit out of it without even moving from the jobs they are doing. That's the most important part in India, right? Half of the people don't go for higher education because of the risk of leaving their jobs. This way, you really enable them to do it without leaving their job.
Yeah. So you're saying that the opportunity for the developers is to focus on problems where you can take the feature from real world and say how can we translate that online, so
Yeah.
that's a great challenge, to have. You spoke about outcomes, right? You spoke about the outcomes that let's say a student is coming, here and saying that, listen, I want to either transition, I want to accelerate, and you focus on their outcomes, right?
Yeah.
So today,
Yeah.
the last question that I want to ask you is this: what will be your advice to developers on what outcomes and impact they should focus on during the hackathon from an edtech industry perspective?
Yeah. So I don't think any industry will be sustainable if it doesn't give outcomes. This has been one of the issues with EdTech in the beginning. It has been initial days, the products were all sold because of infatuation. In fact, a lot of K-12 products which are sold on tab sold because there was a tab coming with it. Now, the issue is that you can make these kind of businesses for a short while. But if you don't really tie up the system to the final outcome, which will make a student successful, then there is no sustainability in there. Now, what is this final outcome which will make a student successful? In higher education, I can say that any student in India goes for higher education, not just for the knowledge. They go in there because they feel that this will give them a life transformational experience. In otherwise, they will get a better job or better pay at the end of it. So if you are building a system which is not taking into account the final decider, that is the recruiter, and what the recruiter and the industry wants, you are bound to fail over a period of time. In K-12, fortunately or unfortunately in our country, most of the education happens to get that one big seat in a top college at the end of 12th standard. So if you don't plan that outcome throughout, if you don't try to make the kid smarter in the process, this is not going to give you the benefit. I just want to also call out that education is a very complex stakeholder industry. Your
Yes.
consumer finally is the student, but the decision makers are many. There is their parents, there is the teacher, there is the elder brother or sister, there is that there is that informed elder in the the house. There is even the teacher whom you are trying to eventually add up to, also giving a input on this. So you have to build a system where all these things can be taken care of in a long term manner. So that's not going to be easy, and that's the problem we are all trying to solve, right? So we'll get there. It's an interesting problem to solve.
Yeah. So let me summarize, Arjun. Thank you very much. You spoke to us today. And in the last few weeks, I've spoken to some folks at Harappa. I've spoken to some folks at Coursera. I've spoken to one of the Australian universities and, who did a very good and quick pivot, to online. And when I
Sure.
look at all this, apart from the things that you shared with us, which is focus on how you can translate the touch and feel part of the offline experiences into online, What is
Yeah.
very, very important and is emerging to me is that educational institutions require new strategic thinking. They require better
Yes.
data insights. They require
Yes.
personalized services. And what I think from a technology perspective, they require agile infrastructure. They need to create cognitive campuses. They need to help teachers and students improve outcomes from kindergarten through higher education. And education technologies, which I think once again, such as artificial intelligence, hybrid cloud computing, data management, which can enhance all these learning environments and unlock the learning potential, they are the ones which will result in improved outcomes and better student experiences. There's lots of data that is also there, which is that about 1 billion children, I'm told UNICEF has shared that 1 billion
Yes.
children were at risk of falling behind due to the pandemic and due to the school courses not being available. So to keep the world's children learning, to enable our future generations, I think I want to just share this with the people who are going to be participating in the hackathon, saying that this is a really, really good cause that you must all focus on. Especially the ones we've had the privilege of being in, our power households, as I call it, who have the privileges of, moving online very quickly. The world, and rural India, for example, does not have that privilege. Every day I hear a story about a child, on the mobile phone and on the smartphone, trying to, get educated, and parents talking to me about how they, these can't hold the attention of the children. So thank you, Arjun, for sharing that. I'm also sharing with you what, I've been gathering. So the question really is, how do we use technology, to ensure that we can reimagine the future? So in the Reimagine Future Hackathon, please come up with ideas and solutions for a better future of education, which will not just benefit India, but the entire world. I wish you all the very best with your participation in the hackathon. Thank you, Arjun, once again for being here
Thank
with
you.
us and spending your time. And I'm handing this over back to Binu.
Thank you, Arjun and Dipali, for that wonderful discussion on reimagining the future of classroom experiences. According to some estimates, India today has the third largest number of startups in the world. And no surprises why. This rise of India is due to India's technology revolution in the last decade. Clearly, this is a hot topic not just for entrepreneurs but also for developers. Let's welcome our next speaker, Kumar Rangarajan, co founder, Slang Labs, who is no stranger to creating startups. I request him to share his thoughts on a startup mindset and how it evolves from a concept to a company.
Hi, thanks IBM for this opportunity to talk to you all. My name is Kumar Rangarajan, and it's always special to be back at IBM because IBM is where I spent a big part of my career here. I am the co-founder of Slang Labs, a Bangalore-based startup which focuses on building in-app multilingual voice assistants that can be easily embedded inside existing mobile and web apps. So users of the apps can now talk to them and talk to them in their own language, even the app itself is in English, and get things done. Our in-app voice assistants are being used by some of the most popular apps in India, like Big Basket, Redbus, Udan, SpiceJet, Nika, PNG, Shine, like to name a few. So before Slang Labs, I used to work in Facebook because my previous startup, Little A Labs, was acquired by Facebook. And that was the first and only Indian acquisition by Facebook so far. And after having, so in Little A, we were building performance analysis tool, which Facebook liked, and we continue to build that inside Facebook. My career actually started way back in '96 after I moved from Chennai to Bangalore. And I used to initially work in G Medical Systems, Wipro G Medical Systems, actually. And then HP after joining Rational, which and moved to the US, Rational Software, which eventually got acquired by IBM. And so from 2003 to 2007, I was part of IBM. I moved back to India and I was working in IBM here at ISL, Bangalore. In 2007 is where I got my startup bug bit, and I wanted to move more. And I joined a small startup or a services firm called S7 Software. And as luck would have it, in 2010, S7 Software got acquired by a large MNC, and in 2 years again became part of a large MNC. And 2 years later, that company got acquired, and then as part of that, they shut down the India office, and then that's when I started Little A Labs along with a bunch of my IBM friends, and the rest is history. Startups should ideally not be born out of life events that happen, but by choice. Sometimes it happens because of life events. You're just getting out of a job and you want to start. But that's should be more the exception than the norm. Right? It should be because you have a strong intended reason. So for me, the reason was very clear. When I was in working in IBM, I didn't see my career as somebody would now keep growing up the progression ladder, the career ladder, and get a more my own kind of office and things like that. So I wanted to be able to now work in a place where I will be able to now see end-to-end impact of what I'm doing. Right? I will be able to now understand things in a more holistic sense than in my own siloed things that I'm typically used to when you're working in a large corporation. So that's when I was lucky enough to be able to now. So when I had that opportunity, then I was lucky enough to be able to now work in a small services firm called S7 Software. Even though I was doing well in IBM because of this reason, I wanted to be able to now venture out and do this. So while S7 was not really my, can't technically is not my startup, but it gave me a good idea of what it means to be able to now run a business. Right? Start thinking beyond your traditional technical thoughts that you're all mostly used to thinking inside a large company. It gave me visibility to how things happen end to end, of how things happen. Then later, that essentially when the opportunity arose, when things happened, and I was now able to now was sort of mentally ready to be able to now start my own startup. Now, when starting a startup, the number one thing that matters to me is the intent. Right? Why exactly are you starting your company? Why do you want to start? Because like today, there are a lot of glamour and glitz associated with the startup ecosystem. Right? $1 billion funding events, massive exits, and now startups doing IPOs. All of them have created a sort of a frenzy in the whole startup about this whole notion of startup. It creates like a Maya around this world. But I think it's prudent not fall into these kind of things, and it is essentially important always to be able to know clear about why. What is your intent behind starting your own company? Right? What is it that you're trying to be able to achieve? Because you don't really want to do things just because your friends are doing it. You don't start doing running a startup is like getting married and having a child. Right? You don't want to do this just because your friends are getting married. You want to get married because there is you feel like there's a need to get married. So next thing is like when people start thinking about a startup, the number one thing that people think of is like, hey, the idea is the most important thing that matters. Right? Because it always feels like idea trumps everything. Right? But in reality, if you actually ask anyone who's actually been running a successful startup, they will say like idea is almost like the last thing that matters. Because typically what you start with, the idea that you start with in a startup is not necessarily where you eventually end up becoming. So what matters is the team, the execution, the market, the timing. All of those things matter more than just the raw idea. So one single advice that I will tell everyone is to like don't look for the idea, but look for your co-founders first. Look for the co-founders. Look for people who share. Look for your intent, and look for co-founders who share a similar intent. Who's foolish enough to share similar intent as you, and then go look for the idea, and then start venturing down with them. So once you have found your intent, and you have a germ of an idea now. Like remember, it will always be a germ of an idea when you start. It won't be very clear, and it will only take shape over time. Okay? The next most important thing is to be able to validate the idea. Most probably, most of you are like working in, like most of the cases, like people who are working in a company. So now you're working a full-time job, but you have this idea, you're fairly clear about the intent. Now, how do you go about validating this? Because you ideally want to be able to make sure like what you're trying to do is of meaning, it's of value to the business. Now, there are different ways in which people go about validating it, and here is something that we did at Little I hope this is useful for you. So when we started Little we were like four of us, right? Like four of us who were now we're all we used to work in IBM, but at the point we were all in different companies. We're all working full time. So now we had to now go about figuring out. We had the intent. We were all clear about the intent. Now we had to figure out an idea. So what did the first thing we did is like we would periodically meet, regularly meet, and keep deliberating on ideas that we all wanted. We would just go wild in our ideas right? Because we were just daydreaming and imagining anything is possible. If anything or everything is possible, what would you like to solve? So for a few weeks, we would just keep deliberating, coming up with ideas. That essentially was also important because we now know that there is consistent interest. We're all together, we're doing this repeatedly, and we're at least able to now do this consistently. But after a while, then we realized, okay, this is all great, but now we have to narrow down to a particular idea that we actually want to work on. So this is where our corporate experience study also came in, and so we started putting down the next week, like we started putting down various points for classifying what is a useful idea. So we picked multiple parameters like, hey, is this an idea that you feel you will use it yourself when you see yourself as a customer? Do you see yourself working on this problem for like 10 years? Because you have no idea how long it will take to actually crack this problem. Do you have the perseverance? Do you think you would love solving this problem for a long period of time? Do you think this is something that you have a prior experience in? Like, is it a completely new problem or is it some experience that you have working in this particular area? Okay. So similarly, we came up with some around 10 to 12 activities. So then we all listed and we put on all our ideas and we started individually rating all the ideas across all these various parameters. Then finally we picked up our one problem. Okay. And then that's what we eventually became Little Elements. But now the thing is like, okay, you still have only picked up an idea. You're not really validated. It is only internal assumption of the idea, but you still haven't validated the idea. Right? So now how do you go about actually validating the idea? So that is when what we did is like we actually now, so in the context of Little, what we were trying to do was we wanted to be able to now build a performance analysis tool that help developers find their app's battery consumption. Because in our mind, that is an important problem. Like battery was an important problem for end users and apps were the primary reasons why the battery was being drained. And so as an app developer, it is extremely important for you to know how much your app's battery consumption is. Right? So at least that it felt important in our brains. Now, but it is not important that like, we have to get external validation. So the way we did it is like we went around going to various Android events, talking to various Android developers and people working in them to be able to understand how important this is. Right? But we hit the luck when we were able to find somebody. We actually searched in web trying to see if there's anybody who's actually talking about this problem in other places. So finally, we were able to find this one QA manager working in a large company, which is actually now part of IBM, actually, Mass 360. So he we were actually cribbing about this problem in a conference somewhere. I said, like, hey, if only somebody could solve this problem, it would be huge. So then we were like, hey, this seems interesting. So then we connected with him. Luckily, he was also interested to talk to us. And then he loved what we were doing. He said, okay, if you guys actually build it, I will actually consume it. I will be happy to test it. And he says, if things go well, I'll be happy to pay too. So now we had that frame of reference. We had this one person at least who believed in what we were doing, right? Who was not an insider, who was an outsider, who was validated by the industry. So now we used this as a frame of reference and started building things. Because otherwise, when you're building things in vacuum, with nobody else judging what you're doing, you always need to have this frame of reference. Without having that clear frame of reference of who is going to be using, how exactly they're going to be using, it becomes very hard. So with this validation and this idea of validation process, we ended up starting Little Labs. This is always an hard one, but let me give you my thought on it. It doesn't matter what skills you possess, right? Whether you are a Java front-end engineer or you're an ML engineer. The two skills that I think you should possess in my mind is self-belief and risk-taking ability. Self-belief is that you believe that you can do things on your own. Right? You're not dependent on other people to be able to get your things done. You have the confidence to be like, I can do things on my own. Right? And risk-taking ability is the ability to be bold enough that you feel like even in the face of other people saying no, even other people saying it's not possible, whatever you feel like you can do it and conquer the world. Right? These are two extremely critical qualities. In the earlier days, we used to keep saying things about like only the paranoid survive. I think in today's world, it is only the bold and the confident who can survive. Right? If you're able to cultivate this habit, even when you're working or studying, right, that will be really good. Don't just listen to your teacher or your boss. Sorry for all the bosses here. To just believe, just do what they tell you to do. Right? Go explore things on your own. Break some rules. Right? Like, okay, don't break bad rules. It's not about jumping traffic signals and hitting in other places. It's not that way. So see, like, don't be limited by the boundaries of what other people tell you. Hey, do this, do that. This can't be done. That can't be done. So there are boundaries, there are artificial boundaries that people have actually put around us. If you're able to now come out of this boundaries, then and if you're able to now enjoy breaking these boundaries, then that is when you're most likely to succeed as an entrepreneur. Technical skills you can always develop. Right? I don't think that's the number one reason. Right? If you can't develop, in the worst case, you can always hire for it. But these two skills, I think you have to possess in them. And I think that's what I would encourage everyone to see whether they possess the skill. If not, somehow cultivate the skill. I will end with this advice, which I typically give other places, and I will do the same thing here. One thing that you'll realize when you enter the startup world, or even actually if you have entered the startup world, is that there are a lot of people who are willing to give you advice and gyan. So when you're working inside a company, this is typically not very common. Right? You typically, when you talk within your team or with your boss, you rarely discuss things with a stranger. Right? But in the startup world, for whatever reason, it's actually very common. It's actually very, very common for you to be able to seek out advice from completely stranger, random people. and for them to be able to give you that advice. Again, when I say random people, it is not necessarily people with more, but like people who have, even whether irrespective of whether they have been successful or not successful, like people who you don't really have a relationship with, right? Normally. They still need to be able to talk to you and then be able to share with you. But what you need to be able to realize is, while there are many Krishnas who can give you the advice, finally it is you, that one Arjuna, who has to wage your war. Right? And only you understand the context in which you are operating. So there are no templates to success. Right? There are no real template success. There are playbooks that other people have followed, which has benefited them. So you can use that to be able to now potentially learn from it and also experiment with it where it applies to you. But you have to take it inside your context. Right? Like in closure, again, there are many Krishnas, including this guy who was like talking to you and boring you to death for the last 10 plus minutes, who will come and give you gyan and in our own context, which you are saying. But finally, it is you, that one Krishna, one Arjuna, sorry, for whom this matters. Right? It's not the Krishnas who matter, it is Arjuna who matters at the end of the day. Again, thank you, IBM, for this opportunity. Have a great rest of the day. Thanks.
Thank you, Kumar, for sharing the advices and tips. We're sure to see some future startup founders amongst us today. Thank you. The last segment and the most awaited is about the Reimagine Future Hackathon. Let's welcome Priya Malia, Hybrid Cloud Build Team and Developer Advocacy Leader for IBM Asia Pacific. Priya is one of the most coveted leaders in IBM and is in charge of the APAC Elite Hybrid Cloud Build Team, and also drives the mission of strengthening the developer base on emerging technologies heavily focused on open source. She is also joined by Rajiv Palanki, Employee Experience Leader, India Software Labs at IBM. He has 21 years of product engineering experience and is responsible for driving business operations, eminence, and skill building within the lab. Let's welcome the creative masterminds, Priya and Rajiv, to give you insights into the Reimagine Future Hackathon. Why we conceived this, what do we expect from bright minds like yourself, and how your ideas and solutions can help reimagine our future. Over to you, Priya and Rajiv.
Hello friends, my name is Priya Malia and I am an IBMer. Let's join hands to come up with creative, practical and highly effective ideas and solutions that will shape our tomorrow. Let's reimagine future together. I welcome all of you to this unique challenge of reimagining future by harnessing the power of technology. You can participate in this challenge as an individual or in teams of up to 4 members. The challenge is divided into 2 phases, the idea phase and the prototype phase. The idea phase starts on July 30th and ends on September 12th. Put your thinking hats on and come up with an idea that will reimagine our future either in the healthcare, education, workplace, or customer experience space. As part of the submission, explain your idea, the impact it will have on the relevant industry, and how technology will help you build the solution. All ideas will be evaluated based on concept and creativity, impact and implementation, and the use of IBM services or products. Shortlisted ideas will be entering the prototype phase. This phase will begin on September 25th and will end on October 24th. During this phase, we would like all our participants to gather their best design and coding skills to bring to life the idea in the form of a solution, in the form of a working demo. We expect all submissions in this phase to include a presentation that provides details of the solution, the problem statement, the solution approach, the technical architecture, scaling, performance and security considerations, user interface details, etc. Basically, all the relevant literature that supports the evolution of a great solution. We would also need links to the repository containing your code, instructions to run your code, and finally a short video that gives us the walkthrough of your prototype. Sounds a lot? Well, my dear friends, we are together building a strong technical community who will reshape our future. We owe it to ourselves and we owe it to our generation that will follow us. To help you through these phases, we have put together comprehensive learning content across cloud essentials, containers, data science, deep learning, and much more. All learning journeys will help you earn badges and for free. Not just that, by earning badges, you can participate in our learning challenge. Visit the learning challenge page and you will know more details and how you will stand a chance to win cool IBM merchandise. You can also visit developer.ibm.com for a vast repository of code and content that will help you build your skills and also the solution that you are working on for this challenge. The team of shortlisted participants from the prototype phase will get power mentoring from IBM experts in the week of November 7th. They will help you with tips and tricks to refine your idea, to build your solution, and also to prepare you for the grand finale on November 12th. There will be industry specialists, technology experts, and business leaders in the judging panel, and it will be your opportunity to present your idea, your prototype, your solution, but more importantly, your passion and determination to reimagine the future. The winning team will receive prizes worth 3 lakh Indian rupees and a chance to be featured in a leading publication, talking through your journey of building the solution. There will be one first runner-up, receiving prizes worth 1,50,000 Indian rupees and 2 second runners-up, receiving prizes worth 50,000 Indian rupees. All winners will be featured via blogs in IBM developer sites. There will be 3 spot prizes, and these will be teams that impress the jury with their concept, creativity, impact, and the technical design. Each winner in this category will receive prizes worth 50,000 Indian rupees. This challenge for me, my dear friends, is very special because I get to do my bit to make the future a beautiful place. I hope you will join hands with me and thousands more to create magic. Good luck.
Abraham Lincoln once famously said that the best way to predict the future is to create it. We are in the era of technology disruption. At an intersection of large amounts of data being available, huge compute power to process this data, and intelligent machine learning algorithms that are automating mundane tasks and helping us make better decisions. And COVID has only accelerated this transformation, and the future is much closer to us than we could imagine. We developers will be at the heart of this transformation. What if you had the opportunity to reimagine the future, to build solutions that will make a meaningful difference for the future world? If you have creative ideas, if you love to code, if you have always wanted to make a difference, we have the platform for you. We invite you to the IBM Reimagine Future Hackathon to build innovative solutions that will shape the future in 4 key areas: healthcare, education, the workplace, and customer experience. COVID has accelerated the adoption of digital healthcare services. Think about how telemedicine will transform healthcare. Remote health monitoring, the role of wearable devices, and access to health services and medical specialists to remote areas. Imagine how the future classrooms will look like, the advent of new learning methodologies in the digital world, and how technology will drive transformation of the learning management systems. We all know that the future of work is hybrid and will present opportunities to bring in new ideas and technology innovations in the workplace. There is an immense opportunity to automate processes, optimize workflows, and improve collaboration. Think of creative solutions that use smart technology powered by sensors, data analytics, and digitalizations and help us reimagine the workplace. Last but not the least, customer experience. Businesses will focus on leveraging technology and innovation to elevate customer experience in the next normal. Digital adoption will accelerate across consumer businesses, from banking, travel to retail. Conversational chatbots, virtual stores, adoption of virtual reality, and scan and go solutions will become common. How can businesses leverage technology to drive deeper engagement with customers? As you think of ideas and build solutions in the hackathon, you will have all the help you need along the way: mentoring, expert talks, and learning modules. I read somewhere the future is completely open and we are writing it moment to moment. The Reimagine Future Hackathon is your moment of opportunity to imagine and influence the future. Wish you all the best.
Thank you, Priya and Raji, for explaining the Reimagine Future Hackathon details. A big thank you to all the core team members of IBM and Hacker Earth for putting together this amazing platform that provides opportunity for developers to ideate and build innovative solutions for the future. A big thank you to all the lovely participants in the session today. Thank you for your time. Reimagine Future Hackathon is a huge opportunity for all of you to collaborate and upskill. So sign up today and see you at the hackathon. Remember, registrations for the hackathon starts today. So join this initiative. We look forward to seeing your innovative solutions. Bye for now. Stay safe and take care.